Patch 1.1 The Clockmaker's Tools adds a relic crafting system to Hellclock. As you play, you'll drop various tools, and you can use these to modify the affixes on your relics, increase relic rarity, add special imbued modifiers, and last but not least, corrupt your masterpiece in hopes of gaining a powerful implicit. But spoiler alert, you're probably going to destroy a good number along the way. This system has two purposes. First, bad luck protection. If you don't get a relic with the affixes you need as you're progressing, you can often craft them on using the drops. Second of all, top-end power. Imbuements and corruptions are very strong, and the divine tool can take a relic beyond its normal limits. So now I'm going to get into each of the currencies, how they work, and some practical applications. Before I do though, a quick note. Crafting works slightly differently than dropped relics. When you use a greater tool of enhancement to turn a relic from magic to rare, specific rare modifiers can be added based on the relic's type: small, large, grand, exalted. But if that same relic drops, it can roll any of the rare affixes from the entire pool, which means that dropped relics have way more variance. This is a reason to craft on already dropped rares, despite that being more difficult than making something from scratch. It also means you're going to get a lot more trash, but occasionally you'll find some treasure. And by the way, the same goes for corrupted implicits. Although these are especially rare, they can be crazy and build-defining. And so let's get into things. But as I do, a recommendation. Pull up the Maxwell guide on your other monitor. Yes, it's down in the description. That way you can see all of the affixes, implicits, and corrupted modifiers which are available to roll on the relics. This should make it much easier to follow along as I'm going through the crafting. Alright, so let's start talking crafting materials. First up, the tool of tinkering. This replaces a random affix on the relic. So using this bundle of rope, for example, it has physical damage and experience gain. Now it has physical damage and lightning resistance. One affix was replaced at random. Very often, you want to pair this with the tool of locksmithing, which locks a random affix. For example, if I need lightning resistance for my build, I can lock this, and now I can replace the physical damage with, let's just say, fire damage, which works better for my build because I'm a fire damage build. You can use this to very efficiently manipulate the affixes on items that don't have too many of them. Since the tool of tinkering must change something, and there's only one valid affix that can be changed, locking something is a very good idea in cases like this. Next, there's the tool of enhancement, which upgrades a common relic to a magic relic. Typically, upgrading a relic adds one or two more affixes. So here I have a large relic of lightning with lightning damage and experience gain. If I upgrade it, now I have lightning damage, experience gain, fire resistance. In general, you want the affixes on your relics to be in a good place before you upgrade their rarity, since adding more to the pool dilutes the number of possible options. It's exponentially harder to roll two specific affixes as opposed to one. And I'm just going to pretend that I want all three of these affixes: lightning damage, experience gain, and fire res. Perfect for my build. Well, I could use a greater tool of enhancement. This transforms it from magic to rare, does not change the affixes, but it does add a rare modifier, which in this case is shocked status intensity. In a lot of cases, when it comes to large relics or small relics, you'll actually start with one that has a good rare affix and work backwards. 2 and 3 affixes aren't really that difficult to work with. Things get more complicated when you're talking about grand or exalted relics, because these have way more affixes. Look at this, there's already 3 affixes on the item. So maybe critical damage is good and fire res is pretty okay. Well, what I might do is lock for critical damage and try to reroll that mana regen. Oh, but I hit mana. Okay, well, fire res is pretty okay, but I could use a different res, right? All right, lightning res. Oh wait, it's fire res. And the mana regen's back. I have now used quite a few tools of tinkering to do functionally nothing to the item, and oh, there we go, plague resistance. Now this is a lot more usable. So of course, I transform it to magic, which adds lightning damage and mana on kill. Now I could try to reroll that mana on kill. It's probably not that useful. The problem here is there are now 4 unlocked affixes on the item. So there is a 25% chance to hit that mana on kill, and a 75% chance to hit one of the other things. Maybe that's not a big deal if pretty much any resistance is good for me, but if I need to keep that lightning damage, I'm not really going to want to re-roll it. In other words, it's better to start with a common relic and build up, if you're using Exalted or Grand due to the difficulty in obtaining what you want. And then from there, you can of course turn it to rare to gain that rare affix. When it comes to using Tool of Tinkering and Tool of Enhancement, small relics really are the easiest to craft on. In this case, the small relic of learning only has one affix, so I don't need to lock anything. I can just reroll until I get what I want, which let's just pretend is life. Then I hit max conviction. Might be useful, might not. If it's useful, cool. If not, I could have locked the life before rolling that. Such as here, I'm just going to pretend I want to do a bleed build, so I lock it. I use this. Oh, max conviction, that's not great. Reroll, gold gain, experience gain, mana, fire res. You know what, fire res, I'll take it, and I can make it rare. These are very quick and easy to craft, meaning you should do them last. Start with the bigger relics, such as the Grands and Exalteds, that are harder, then go to larges, then go to smalls. Use those to fill in gaps in your resistances. Now, when it comes to uniques, the rules are a little bit different, because uniques generally have less affixes available. A unique Grand, for example, caps out at 3, meaning you can lock one and reroll the others, making it no more difficult to craft than a regular old magic or rare large relic. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to try to recreate my current blunderbuss. Kinda, sort of. I want physical damage, life, physical resistance. And since my build uses both physical and fire damage, I will accept fire damage instead. First up, I need to get at least one of the affixes that I want. Life on kill, no. Skill mana cost, no. Experience gain, no. Mana regen, no. Mana, no. As you can see, it's not always that easy. But after using a few things, there we go. Physical damage. Now I'm going to lock this. There we go. Fizz locked. Now I want to reroll until I, at the minimum, hit one of the two desired affixes. Okay, I've hit life. Now I have two options here. Option one would be I say, I specifically want or need physical damage. The other is I specifically want or need life. I'm actually a little more flexible about my prefix here. Physical damage is the ideal goal, but fire damage probably isn't a bad idea, and even something like crit chance for damage is viable. On the other hand, if I don't have life, I'm going to struggle for survivability. So I'm actually going to switch the lock here. Now I'm going to continue to reroll until I hit physical resistance plus one of the other modifiers. Here we go, physical resistance. Now, I have another choice. What's more important for me, physical res or life? Well, to test this, I'm going to take off my existing relic. And as you can see, I'm just barely capped. So I either look for physical resistance specifically, or I say, my relics are already pretty good, but I could easily swap that physical resistance, say, here, onto a small relic, in which case lightning res is fine. Or I could put it here, in which case max conviction is fine. Remember earlier how I had that max conviction? Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have rolled over that, because I could have indeed used that instead. The point of this is not to say that I have now crafted an upgrade optimally. It's to say, look at the big picture and don't get locked into crafting one specific thing just because that's what you need at the time. Look at other options, and especially look for things that you can swap around on your small relics where it's very easy to manipulate the affixes of your items. So now let's reapproach this and see where things go. Alright, so now I have fire damage, life, and lightning resistance. And remember, I can always swap lightning resistance off of one of my small relics for some fizz res to make up for losing it here. The next step is to start finishing the item. And that is done with imbuements. There's Imbued Tool of Fury, Imbued Tool of Faith, and Imbued Tool of Discipline. And these offer affixes that are pretty intuitive if you're familiar with the constellation tree. So physical, fire, melee. Spellcaster, summons, lightning. Plague, marksman. And also, of course, physical. Physical can roll on all three, meaning if you use physical damage for your build, there's some baseline value and you can use any of these in a pinch. But I specifically need to use Imbued Tool of Fury here, because again, I have a specific implicit, Life Leech, and I need to recreate that. Though if I hit something good enough, maybe I'd reroll one of my other options instead. After all, +1 max agility orb is way more valuable than having Life Leech on this specific item. But for that, I would need an Imbued Tool of Discipline, and I'm going to be rolling with Imbued Tool of Fury, so no agility orbs here. Attack speed is quite good, though. Bonus to fire damage would be good. Attack speed. Life leech. All right, I've hit what I want. So at this point, I've invested a fair bit, and my item is nearly done. There's only 2 tools remaining in the shed. The first is the Corrupted Tool, which always has to be used last because it renders your relic unmodifiable from that point. The other being the Divine Tool. This blesses it, which if you've used a Divine Orb in PoE, very similar thing. And the interesting thing about a Divine Tool is it can take the values beyond their maximum. So if I apply one here, as you can see, everything has gone up a bit, and the Fizz Split Shot is now doing 160, the exact maximum. Let's use one again. Things reroll. 62, 204, 19, 225, 215, 62, 226, 62. That fire damage really doesn't like changing any more than that 62. But the life roll is pretty good. The res is pretty darn good. The life leech is pretty good. So I could say, all right, I am happy with this. You will not be able to meaningfully increase every single affix with every roll because it is, well, random. And the more affixes you are trying to get to that upper bar of perfection, the greater the odds that you are not actually going to be able to hit what you want because one will go up and the other one won't. But here we go. I am very happy with this item that I've crafted. So at this point, I could start upgrading it. But what if I don't know 100% for sure that I'm going to equip it? What if it needs an implicit as well? Or at the very least, it needs to not brick during the corruption. Corrupted Tool modifies items unpredictably. This means it can get much better, but also it can get much worse. And so I'm going to use this first. It will render all of the affixes unmodifiable by tools. However, even on a corrupted item, you can still spend soul stones to enhance it. So I can take it all the way up to rank 5 if I get a good or at the very least usable outcome. And remember, this is random and unpredictable. It could do nothing at all. It could reroll the affixes, turning fire damage into something useless, like plague damage. Or it could add a very fun implicit. And so, a new implicit has been added, Conviction Decay Resistance. In this case, it's not something that specifically contributes to my build, but neither is it detrimental or harmful. So the final step would be to enhance this all the way up to rank 5, and then equip my shiny new gun. I'm going from this blunderbuss, which has the +2 slow time, not particularly useful for my current build, to this blunderbuss, which is arguably more useful, especially since there are higher magnitudes on things like the fire damage and the life leech. I'm getting just a few more stats in there, which at the point where my character is, the min-maxing stage, even just a couple of percentages does add up significantly. But remember, I also needed to fix that fizz res, so now I'm going to look for a relic with lightning res. Here we go. It's got ignite chance lightning res. And I'm just going to quickly reroll, soulstone gain, fire res, nope, gold, fire. Unfortunately, fizz is a slightly rarer affix, so it might take a little bit longer to roll. But since I'm guaranteed to reroll this affix, it shouldn't take all that much investment. He says, before, of course, spending a significant amount due to bad luck, because that's how it always goes. Fizz res, there we go. Maybe not quite as high ultimately as the affix was here, but more than sufficient to not only cap my character out, but leave me slightly overcapped, so if I get a few curse stacks from bosses, it's not going to be crippling. And honestly, I could take this even further by finding a plague res roll elsewhere on my gear, and re-rolling that to fizz as well. And like so, my resistances are balanced, my damage is looking pretty darn good, and I have slightly better stats than before. And so that's how you craft in Hellclock. The system doesn't come online immediately. Drop rates in the first couple acts are pretty sparse, but especially as you progress into Abyss or Oblivion or really take part in any of the endgame activities, you'll be getting a fair amount of materials. And in general, a greater investment into a given relic means you'll come out with a better result. So you are continually incentivized to keep adding more and more perfection to your crafts. This means the system adds quite a bit of longevity, at least for those of you who want to min-max and challenge the void. For me personally, I'd rather run through Ascension again, at which point I am very glad for the bad luck protection aspect, as I can fix my resistances or get some rare affixes that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to obtain. Personally, I think the relic system already felt pretty good in Hellclock before the crafting, but crafting definitely takes it to the next level and makes it way more enjoyable. I'm a big fan of crafting systems like this, which give you tools and let you apply them at your leisure, as opposed to ones that are simply about creating or destroying items. And with that said, I again recommend that you check out the Maxwell Guide to learn more about what's possible. It'll be linked down below. And if you're looking for something else to watch after this, maybe it's been a while since you played Hellclock, you need a refresher, check out my beginner's guide. That'll be linked up in the card and down below. It goes over all the basics, including things like relics, meta progression, crafting. Pretty much if it's in the game, I tried to cover or at least touch on it. Thank you very much for watching to the end. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, and with that, I'll see you in the next one.